This is the tomb of Confederate soldiers from Louisiana who fought with the Army of Tennessee. This is the grave of Confederate General Pierre Gustave Touton Beauregard. He was born in St. Bernard Parish in 1818. He was a graduate of West Point and was such an excellent artillery student that he was asked to stay on by his teacher for one more year. A veteran of the Mexican War, and then later on served with the Confederacy. He was actually the commander of Confederate forces in Charleston Harbor to start the Civil War in April 1861. General Beauregard served with distinction for the Confederate Army, despite his not so pleasant relationship with Confederate President Jefferson Davis, who we'll be talking about in just a moment. Beauregard was married twice, had 3 children with his first wife. His second wife died in 1864. She was the sister-in-law of U.S. Senator John Slidell of Louisiana. She's buried in St. John the Baptist Parish. General Beauregard was a proud man. He often clashed with Confederate President Jefferson Davis, and initial disagreements between the two men turned into outright hatred. The general's feud with President Davis ensured he never held a major field command again after the Battle of Shiloh in 1862. After the war, General Beauregard became a leading citizen in New Orleans, trying to unite white citizens and black citizens, bring them together. He became an official in the Louisiana State Lottery and got rich. However, he backed out of the lottery corporation when he found out about its corruption. He died in 1893. Another Confederate general that was originally buried here was Albert Sidney Johnston. He was the South's #1 field soldier at the beginning of the Civil War. But he was killed at the Battle of Shiloh in early April 1862. His second in command, General Pierre Gustave Touton Beauregard. He took over at the end of the first day. On the second day, Union forces under General Ulysses S. Grant got reinforcements. Therefore, the Union forces turned the tide in that battle on the second day, drove the Confederates out of Tennessee. General Albert Sidney Johnston was buried here originally in the tomb of the Army of the Tennessee, Louisiana Division. However, his family moved his remains to Texas, where he's been ever since. This is the grave of Confederate General Richard Taylor. He's the son of Zachary Taylor, who was the 12th President of the United States. Richard Taylor was a plantation owner. He owned the property known as Fashion, which was on the west bank of St. Charles Parish. He was also a member of the Louisiana legislature. He was the commander of Confederate forces during the Red River Campaign in 1864 in Louisiana. Now going to explore the tomb of Louisiana soldiers that fought in Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia, perhaps one of the most famous armies in not just American history, but in world history. We're going to also take a look at the tomb, or the original tomb, of the only president of the Confederate States of America. This is the original grave of the only president in Confederate States history. This is Jefferson Davis, former soldier, U.S. Senator from Mississippi, and was even Secretary of War under my sixth cousin, President Franklin Pierce. He died in New Orleans in 1889, but in 1893, his body, the remains of his body, was taken out and moved to Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia. These are the names of soldiers who fought in Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. And these men are all from the state of Louisiana. A lot of the names are worn due to weathering. We're going to walk up to the tomb here of the Army of Northern Virginia, Louisiana Division. Take a good look at that statue up there. As we leave the heroes, the Army of Northern Virginia, another Civil War spot that we're going to is the grave of the bold fighter, General John Bell Hood. And here we are at the grave of Confederate General John Bell Hood, which is not too far from the Army of Northern Virginia's tomb. Hood was a bold and tenacious fighter. Upon joining the Confederate Army in 1861, he became general the following year and served in Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. He was involved in the 7 Days Battles, Second Battle of Bull Run, and Gettysburg. In 1864, he took over command of the Army of Tennessee and fought in the Battle of Atlanta. At the end of November in 1864, he completely destroyed his army at the Battle of Franklin and Nashville. After the war, he and his wife had 11 children, including 3 sets of twins. He died in the yellow fever epidemic with his wife and eldest daughter. This has been our trip to Metairie Cemetery. Join me for other voyages along the River Road and New Orleans proper. Thanks for watching.